Sukagar. This is Trace reporting on the latest from Din Djarin, our local exterminator who continues his quest to locate Jedi, the closest thing to Baby Yoda's people in existence. After escaping the frozen moon of Baron, Djarin and the passenger made their way to the world of Trask via literally drifting through space. With his ship badly damaged, Djarin manually piloted the vessel through the Admiral entry, once again utilizing very similar techniques to that of the pilot of the smuggling ship Serenity, Hoban Washburn. This has led many of my colleagues to wonder if perhaps the two had crossed paths, Djarin learning much from the smuggler before his unfortunate passing.
What was that? Did you see that? Was that the primary buffer panel? It did seem to resemble... Did the primary buffer panel just fall off like Gorham ship from Old Bear? Looks like.
After landing on the planet and then getting fished out by a modified AT-AT turned into a walking crane, Djarin and the passenger were soon reunited with the passenger's husband in a very touching scene. I should also note that the sheer number of Mon Calamari and Quarren, as the dominant species of Trask, has led me to suspect that this may in fact be a colony of Dak. This does make sense, as the Empire did drive both off-world and into exile. I would recommend a further investigation into whether or not Dak is still hospitable or not. Keeping to their word, the passenger and her husband directed the Mandalorian to a fisherman's inn, where Djarin used Mon Calamari currency known as flan, obtained from his first job of Grief Karga, to purchase information about where the Mandalorian covert was located. Unfortunately, the Quarren paid to take him there soon turned on him with the purpose of acquiring his Beskar armor. Because of the later information revealing that Trask is a black market hub, largely selling to Moff Gideon's remnant faction, I suspect then that these Quarren are part of the same network as the Abyssian was, and are actively hunting Mandalorians for their armor. Fortunately for Djarin, Bo-Katan and the Night Owls arrived in the nick of time, dispatching the Quarren with moves I'm sure I've seen from some wrestling outlet a while back. Unfortunately for Djarin, Bo-Katan and company removed their helmets, revealing that Djarin's tribal tradition of never removing their helmets is a purely tribal thing. Bo-Katan then revealed to him that his clan was part of the so-called Children of the Watch, a fundamentalist group that sought to restore Mandalore to the traditional ways, which strangely includes not removing their helmets. This revelation has brought many observations and questions. First is the issue of how long this watch has been around. We know that Djarin was rescued as a child during the Clone Wars, where Mandalorians wearing armor similar to the Night Owls and Death Watch saved him and inducted him into the Fighting Corps. Second, due to their connection to Death Watch, why was Djarin not told of his people's history, such as their wars with the Jedi, or even that this watch even existed? When told about them, Djarin had no idea, and been led to believe that his way was the only way. I have developed a theory about this. First, the Watch are a splinter group of Death Watch, with even a similarity in the name, and broke off from the group at some point during the Clone Wars. After all, many other fundamentalist groups also broke off from Death Watch, or even outright refused to join them due to the dishonorable and downright terrorist methods the group employed. Death Watch was not truly interested in restoring Mandalore, only putting themselves into power.
So basically, in the end, they knock out all of the people that backed them, which always happens. Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia, Maoist China. Learn from history.
Second, the Watch, due to them betraying Death Watch and later being hunted by the Empire during the Purge, likely went into a state of self-isolation. Because of this, they limited much of their people's teachings to the bare essentials, in order to keep their members close and not draw attention. In fact, I suspect the helmet issue is actually a practical attempt to conceal and protect the identities of its members. It was only just masked with tradition in order to keep their people from complaining. Third, due to the nature of the Imperial Purge and the constant instability of the Mandalore, much of their history and knowledge was lost. This does fit with the Imperial MO, as enemies such as the Jedi had their identities purposely erased so they could be forgotten. Combine this with the Watch purposely restricting knowledge to protect its members, Djarin not only did not know about the Jedi, he also believed his way was the only way. My personal thought about the whole situation is this. Ved Oroshe Beskargam, a warrior is more than his armor. Also, I would like to note that the cloaked figure observing Djarin on his landing was in fact Casca Reeves, a member of Bo-Katan's retinue. I had originally suspected her to be an Inquisitor due to the ominous slide walk and disappear routine she pulled. The question this does raise is, did the Mandalorians know DeJaren was coming, as she was there as soon as he landed and then rescued him right when he needed it? If they did, who told them? Also, I'd like to speculate that the third member of Bo-Katan's retinue, Axe Woves, bears a striking resemblance to the Fett template clone troopers of the Clone Wars. As we know from Cutler Quain, many clones deserted the war to start families. I'm curious if Axe may be a result of this, as his physical appearance and age does line up somewhat with this theory. After rescuing DeJaren again from more Quarren thieves, Bo-Katan revealed that a Gazanti cruiser, filled to the brim with weapons and artifacts stolen from Mandalore, was in port and waiting to take off the Gideon's remnant. In exchange for his assistance, Bo-Katan would guide DeJaren to where a Jedi could be found, leaving Baby Yoda in the company of the passenger family and their newly hatching frogs. The Mandalorians quickly boarded the enemy ship. I would like to note that the tactics of the boarding and proceeding cleanup of the ship bear much resemblance to the strategies employed by the Hawkmen of planet Mongo, where Prince Voltan led his Hawkmen in the capture of the war rocket Ajax.
Oh, well, who wants to live forever?
Curiously, I observed a very stark difference in the tactics employed by the Night Owls and DeJaren. While the Night Owls were tactical with their assault, using their team's training to move from position to position with pure synchronization, DeJaren was a bit more awkward and reckless in his approach, preferring to adapt to a situation rather than using a pre-planned assault. This does make sense, as the Night Owls are first and foremost soldiers, who likely spend a considerable amount of time training and honing their squad tactics. DeJaren, on the other hand, is a gunslinger. His goal is to end engagements as quickly as possible, and use any means necessary to do it. This was best reflected by DeJaren employing a near-suicidal tactic of running at the enemy, using his armor to soak up the damage just to get close enough to destroy the stormtroopers with explosives. Many of my colleagues have related such tactics to the individual known as James Howlett, better known as Wolverine, who likewise used his indestructible metal skeleton and healing factor to close in with the enemy and tear them apart. Some have actually speculated as to whether or not this so-called adamantium may in fact be one and the same as Beskar. In response to the Mandalorians overtaking their forces, Moff Gideon ordered the captain of the ship to crash the vessel rather than try to wait for reinforcements. Before he could, the Mandalorians took the bridge, seizing the ship for Bo-Katan's efforts to reclaim Mandalore. She then promptly attempted to interrogate the captain about the Darksaber's location, before he killed himself using an Electro-style cyanide tooth capsule. Honoring her word, Bo-Katan revealed the location of Ahsoka Tano on the world of Corvus, leaving DeJaren to make his way there. This does bring up serious questions about Ahsoka's whereabouts over the last several years. Her two noted sightings were first during the encounter of Malachor in 3 BBY, where she survived a duel with Darth Vader and then disappeared. Later, she would re-emerge at Lothal shortly after the Battle of Endor to pick up the Mandalorian Sabine Wren in their search for the missing Jedi Ezra Bridger and, by extension, Grand Admiral Thrawn. It has been 5 years since then, and with Corvus being a known world that DeJaren can clearly travel to, it does make me wonder why exactly Ahsoka is there, and potentially what she is looking for. It likewise makes me wonder about the whereabouts of Luke Skywalker, hero of the rebellion and self-proclaimed Jedi Knight, who was last seen on the Imperial Redoubt of Pelio, where he recovered Jedi artifacts stolen by Emperor Palpatine, also shortly after the Battle of Endor. I would now wish to speculate on the information we have gathered on Moff Gideon and Mandalore itself. First, our theory that Moff Gideon commands a powerful remnant of Imperials has been proven true, as the captain of the Gazanti cruiser mentioned the presence of a fleet. This does certainly explain the resources Gideon commands, and the speed at which he was able to dispatch them. This likewise points to the possibility that this fleet may be mobile, and holds no real territory outside of a handful of outposts secreted away in New Republic territory. Though there may be a single exception, as I will explain in my next point. Second, resources still seem to be coming out of Mandalore, as Bo-Katan mentioned the Gazanti was carrying stolen Mandalorian property, and is amassing a force to take back the planet. This leads to two possibilities. One is that Gideon's forces hold Mandalore proper. I do not personally prescribe to this, as Mandalore is located close to the galactic core, and would have been assaulted by the New Republic a long time ago. The second and more likely theory is that Gideon has a proxy force there on the planet, likely in the form of Clan Saxon remnants and allied forces, that rule in his stead without advertising it. Regardless, their hold on it is enough that Bo-Katan's forces must raid Imperial shipments in order to eventually take it back. Third, Djarin mentioned that Mandalore is a death world, and that the Empire ensured no one could hope it. I wonder if perhaps the Imperials, just as they did with Geonosis, virus-bombed the planet with chemical weapons to make it even more inhospitable. This would line up with the usual Imperial tactics when they confront an enemy they can't overwhelm with superior numbers. Finally, on a separate note, the cosmic red-headed entity calling herself Bryce Dallas Howard was detected tampering with the events of this report. However, unlike the last time she did with the Sanctuary incident, where she empowered the female of the species to somewhat ludicrous degrees at the expense of the men, she instead fairly handled this incident. I recommend a further investigation into this incident. Now, on to the damage report, and I recommend building Clan Kreis for some of the damage as they, rather than Djarin, were responsible for it, especially for the complaints from PETA. The rest was Imperial property, so our insurance need not worry.
Close the door.
Long live the Empire.
Nozick, the Imperials really need better armor. Finally, time to tell you Baby Yoda's adorable scenes. From ugliest to cutest, we have Porgs, Jar Jar Binks, Love Cats, Baby Wookiees, and Baby Ewoks.
I know you're hungry. We'll get you something to eat.
Others with Beskar have been through here.
Who can take me to them?
I know someone who might help.
Here you go, little one.
There is only one way.
I'm gonna kill your pet.
I was hoping you would help me by creed. You know what I'm talking about. Thanks. No, I have enough pens.
You're a jittery little thing, aren't you?
Baby Yoda was adorable in this instance, though I did, of course, add in the passenger family reunion. That was just too much not to add. With that finished, I conclude my report and submit it for your examination. Retorche me, VOD, out.